Hello. I still remember the exact moment my world shattered. The message notification lit up my phone at 2:47 a.m. while I was working late at my consulting firm, preparing for a major client presentation. Hey babe, I really miss what we had. That night last week was amazing. Sarah doesn't deserve you. The text wasn't meant for me. It was from Jake, my fiancée Ashley's ex, and she had accidentally sent me a screenshot of their conversation while trying to share some wedding venue photos. My hands trembled as I scrolled through their chat history that she'd inadvertently revealed. The messages went back months. They had been meeting at his apartment every Thursday when I thought she was at her women's entrepreneurship group. The same group she'd been so enthusiastic about joining 3 months ago, right after running into Jake at her high school reunion. I sat there in my dark office, staring at the evidence of her betrayal, remembering how just last week she'd looked me in the eyes and told me she couldn't wait to spend the rest of her life with me. How she'd been excitedly planning our wedding, insisting we invite Jake because he's such an important part of my past, and I want to show him how happy I am now. The lies made me physically sick. What cut deeper was realizing that Melissa, my colleague who'd warned me about seeing Ashley with Jake at a downtown cafe, had been right. I defended Ashley then, even gotten angry at Melissa for trying to cause problems. Ashley had convinced me she was just catching up with an old friend, that I was being paranoid and controlling for even questioning it. She'd actually started crying, saying how much it hurt that I didn't trust her. I'd ended up apologizing and buying her flowers. The irony wasn't lost on me. Melissa, the woman Ashley absolutely despised, had been the only one honest with me. Ashley had always been jealous of her, constantly accusing me of having feelings for her, making snide comments about her whenever we had office parties. "She's just waiting for a chance to steal you away," Ashley would say. "I see how she looks at you." The projection was almost laughable now. I didn't confront Ashley that night. Instead, I methodically took screenshots of everything, backed them up to my cloud drive, and went home to our apartment. She was sound asleep, her face peaceful, probably dreaming about her next rendezvous with Jake. I packed a small bag, took my important documents, and checked into a hotel. Then I started planning. If Ashley wanted to play games, I'd show her exactly how it felt to lose. Melissa's face flashed in my mind, and for the first time, I let myself acknowledge how attractive she was. Not just physically, but in her straightforward, honest way of carrying herself. She had never played mind games or tried to manipulate me like Ashley, and I knew exactly how much it would destroy Ashley to find out I'd been with her, the woman she'd been so threatened by all along. I spent the rest of the night thinking about all the times Ashley had gaslighted me, made me doubt my own judgment, painted herself as the victim while she was betraying me. By morning, I knew exactly what I was going to do. Ashley had no idea that her little screenshot mistake was about to trigger a chain of events that would blow up her carefully constructed world of lies. Ashley called 17 times before I finally answered the next morning. Her voice was thick with fake tears as she asked where I was, claiming she'd been worried sick. I told her I'd stayed at the office overnight preparing for my presentation. She immediately launched into a guilt trip about how I worked too much, how she felt neglected, the same manipulation tactics she'd used countless times before. This time, though, I could hear the calculation behind every trembling word. "Actually," I said, keeping my voice neutral, "I think we need some space. I'm staying at a hotel for a few days." The panic in her response was instant and genuine. She started rambling about couples counseling, about how she'd do anything to fix whatever was wrong. Not once did she ask what had prompted my decision. She knew exactly what she'd done. She just didn't know that I knew. I went to work as usual, acting normal while my mind raced with possibilities. Around lunch, Melissa stopped by my office to drop off some client files. She looked concerned, probably noticing my distraction. "Everything okay, Ryan?" she asked. "You seem off today." I made a decision right then. "Actually, no. Would you want to grab dinner tonight? I could use someone to talk to." The surprise on her face was evident, but she agreed. I chose a restaurant on the opposite side of town from where Ashley and I usually went, but I made sure to use our joint credit card for the reservation. I wanted Ashley to see it, Over wine and pasta, I told Melissa everything. The screenshots, the Thursday meetings, the gaslighting, all of it. Her face grew increasingly angry as I talked, especially when I mentioned how I dismissed her warning. God, Ryan, I'm so sorry, she said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. I knew something was off about her, but I never imagined she'd do this to you. The touch of her hand sent electricity through my arm. We'd always had chemistry, but I'd suppressed it out of respect for my relationship. Now, with 3 glasses of wine in my system and the weight of Ashley's betrayal heavy on my mind, I found myself noticing everything about Melissa. The way her dark hair fell across her shoulders, how her eyes crinkled when she smiled sympathetically, the subtle floral scent of her perfume. When she suggested we get another bottle, I agreed. We talked for hours, moving from the betrayal to lighter topics. I found myself laughing for the first time in days. As we waited for our Uber outside the restaurant, standing close in the cool evening air, the tension between us was palpable. You shouldn't be alone tonight, Melissa said softly, her eyes meeting mine. Come back to my place. We can talk more, or just watch a movie. The invitation hung in the air between us. I knew exactly what accepting would mean. I also knew that if I did this, there would be no going back. Ashley would be devastated when she found out, and I would make sure she found out. Part of me felt guilty for even considering it. Not because of Ashley, she'd forfeited any right to my loyalty, but because Melissa deserved better than to be used as a revenge tool. But when I looked at her, I saw more than just an instrument of revenge. I saw someone who had been honest with me when everyone else was lying. Someone who actually cared about my feelings instead of just manipulating them. The Uber arrived, breaking the moment. Your place or mine? I asked quietly. Melissa's smile was answer enough. As we slid into the back seat, I felt my phone vibrate with another message from Ashley. I turned it off without looking. Tonight wasn't about her anymore. I woke up in Melissa's bed to 37 missed calls and a string of increasingly frantic texts from Ashley. The last one caught my eye. Ryan, please, I know I made a mistake. Can we talk? My heart stopped. Had she somehow found out about Melissa already? Then I saw the timestamp on my dinner reservation had posted to our shared credit card statement. Melissa stirred beside me, her dark hair splayed across the pillow. Last night had been intense. Not just the physical connection, which was electric, but the emotional intimacy. We talked for hours after, about everything and nothing. No manipulation, no games, just honest conversation. It felt foreign after years of Ashley's calculated behaviors. Morning, Melissa murmured, stretching. Any regrets? Her voice was casual, but I could hear the underlying concern. I showed her Ashley's text, and she sat up, pulling the sheet around herself. Are you going to respond? I was about to answer when my phone lit up with a call from Tom, my best friend and Ashley's brother. That complicated things. Hey man, I answered, trying to sound normal. There was a long pause. Dude, Tom said finally. What the fuck is going on? Ashley's having a complete meltdown at my place. She showed up at 5 a.m. saying you didn't come home and she thinks you're cheating on her with someone from work. The irony was almost too much. Is that what she told you? Interesting. I leaned in and kissed her. A gentle contrast to last night's passion. Have dinner with me again tonight. As I got dressed to leave, my phone kept lighting up with messages. Ashley's sister calling me every name in the book. Her mother begging me to talk things through with Ashley. Friends taking sides without knowing the full story. But the message that really got my attention was from Jake. We need to talk. I smiled as I read it. Everything okay? Melissa asked, noticing my expression. Perfect, I replied. Just got an invitation I've been waiting for. I showed her Jake's message. Think I should meet him? Her eyes sparkled with understanding. Absolutely. But first. She pulled me back toward the bed. Let them all stew for a while longer. I was an hour late to work, wearing yesterday's clothes, and I made sure to walk past Ashley's friend Jessica's desk on my way to my office. By lunch, Ashley would know exactly where, and with whom, I'd spent the night. The thought should have made me feel guilty. Instead, I felt lighter than I had in months. I agreed to meet Jake at a bar downtown after work. The same bar where Ashley and I had our first date, which I'm sure he chose deliberately. When I walked in, he was already there, nursing a whiskey and looking entirely too comfortable. The smug confidence on his face made my blood boil, but I kept my expression neutral as I sat down. "Bold move, sleeping with Melissa," he opened with, not bothering with pleasantries. "Ashley's completely falling apart. She threw up when Jessica told her." He said this like it was supposed to make me feel guilty, like Ashley's pain somehow mattered more than what they'd done to me. "Interesting that you're concerned about Ashley throwing up now," I replied calmly, ordering a bourbon. "Were you concerned about her well-being when you were fucking her every Thursday?" The smugness faltered slightly. "Or when you were helping her lie to my face about that entrepreneurship group?" "Look, man," Jake leaned forward, lowering his voice. "It's not what you think." Ashley was confused. She came to the reunion feeling uncertain about the wedding, and things just happened. She was going to end things with me. She just needed time to figure things out. I laughed, actually laughed, and pulled out my phone. "Really? Is that what these messages show?" I started reading them aloud, watching his face pale. "Can't wait for Thursday, baby. Ryan's working late again, so we can take our time." Or this gem from you: "You're so much hotter now than in high school. Does your fiancé even appreciate what he has?" Jake's confidence crumbled entirely. "Ryan, listen." "No, you listen." I cut him off, my voice deadly quiet. "You and Ashley deserve each other. Two lying, manipulative cowards who get off on betraying people who trust them. But here's what's going to happen now. You're going to tell me every detail of your relationship with Ashley, from the reunion until now. Every meeting, every lie, every time you laughed together about deceiving me. And if you leave anything out, I'll send these screenshots to your boss." His eyes widened. "My boss? Why would?" "Because quite a few of your Thursday meetings with Ashley happened during work hours, didn't they? When you were supposed to be at client sites. I wonder how the partners at your firm would feel about you falsifying billable hours to have an affair with an engaged woman." For the next hour, Jake spilled everything. How Ashley had pursued him after the reunion, claiming she was having doubts about our engagement. How she'd orchestrated the entrepreneurship group lie, even creating fake event invitations in case I ever asked to see them. How she'd been the one to suggest inviting him to our wedding, wanting to prove she was over him while still keeping him close. "She played us both," Jake said finally, staring into his empty glass. "She told me she was going to leave you after the wedding, said she just needed to wait for the right time, that she didn't want to hurt you or her family." I actually believed her. I stood up, leaving my untouched bourbon on the bar. "Thanks for the confirmation. Check your phone in about an hour. I sent something to Ashley that you might want to see." I started to walk away, then turned back. "Oh, and Jake? If you ever contact either of us again, those screenshots go straight to your firm's HR department." As I walked to my car, I pulled out my phone and opened my text thread with Ashley. I'd been saving these messages for the right moment, and after hearing Jake's confession, I knew exactly what to write. The truth would destroy her carefully constructed world of lies, and the best part was, she'd done it all to herself. I looked at the time, 8:45 p.m. Melissa would be finished with her late meeting. I smiled as I typed out a quick message to her, then turned back to the task at hand. It was time for Ashley to learn exactly what it felt like to have her entire world exposed as a lie. I sat in my parked car for a long moment, composing the message that would shatter Ashley's carefully constructed facade. My conversation with Jake had given me all the final pieces I needed. With methodical precision, I began typing. "Ashley, I know everything. Not just about the Thursdays with Jake, but about the fake event invitations you created. About your plans to wait until after the wedding. About telling Jake you'd leave me when the time was right. You didn't just betray me. You orchestrated an elaborate scheme to humiliate me in front of everyone we know." I attached screenshots of her messages with Jake, specifically the ones where she mocked my trust in her. The ones where she called me naive for believing her tears when Melissa had spotted them together. The messages showing their plans to continue their affair after our wedding, complete with her detailed strategies for maintaining their deception. What's interesting, I continued typing, is how obsessed you've been with the idea of me and Melissa, constantly accusing me of wanting her. The truth is, I never looked at her that way until you forced me to see how honest she was compared to you. Last night, when I was with her, I finally understood what real connection feels like. No manipulation. No games, just truth. My phone immediately lit up with her call, but I declined it and kept writing. You know what the worst part is? Jake told me everything tonight. How you pursued him after the reunion. How you orchestrated every detail of your affair. He showed me messages I hadn't even seen yet. The ones where you laughed about how I apologized to you for doubting your friendship with him. The ones where you planned to invite him to our wedding just to prove you could control both of us. Another call. Another decline. I've already spoken with the wedding vendors. Everything's been canceled. I've emailed everyone on the guest list with a brief, dignified note about the wedding being called off. I didn't mention your affair. That's spreading just fine on its own through the grapevine, thanks to Jake's guilty conscience and Jessica's big mouth. The messages started pouring in. Please, I can explain. It's not what you think. I love you. I ignored them all and delivered the final blow. I took screenshots of everything and sent them to your parents. Not out of spite, but because I'm tired of your lies. They deserve to know why their daughter isn't getting married next month. They deserve to know who you really are. The engagement ring is with your brother Tom. He came by my office this afternoon. Turns out he has some interesting thoughts about sisters who betray their fiancés and destroy their family's trust. Don't worry about the apartment. I'm not coming back. Melissa's place is much nicer anyway. As soon as I hit send, I turned off my phone. Through my windshield, I could see Melissa waiting for me on her building steps, 2 glasses of wine in hand. She smiled when she saw me, and I felt the last traces of Ashley's toxic influence fade away. I'd lost a fiancé, but I'd found something far more valuable. The truth about who I was and what I deserved. Walking toward Melissa, I heard my phone buzzing in my pocket one last time before powering down completely. Ashley's carefully constructed world of lies was imploding, and I had front row seats to the show. But for the first time since this all began, I realized I didn't need to watch it burn. I had something better to focus on. Thank you for listening the story to the end. Write your thoughts about it in the comments and do not forget to subscribe. See you in the next videos. Bye.